Shalom Yeladim. Since Pesach is coming up, I'm going to read you a story of Passover. And I hope that you will really enjoy it, because Passover this year is still not going to be the same as it usually is. But we have to make do, and we'll enjoy. And next year, we'll all be together with our families and our friends and our loved ones. So today we're going to read the story of Passover. The story of Passover begins more than 3,000 years ago when Jacob and his family settled in Egypt. Jacob was called Israel, and his family were called the children of Israel. They were also called Hebrews because of the language they spoke. Many years passed. Jacob and his children had all died. To the Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, the children of Israel were outsiders. He was afraid that one day they would rebel. To control them, he made them slaves. He forced them to do hard work. They were beaten. Some were killed. The wise men of Egypt told the Pharaoh that one day a Hebrew boy would be born who would lead his people against Egypt. They couldn't tell him which boy it would be, so the Pharaoh decreed that every newborn Hebrew boy must be thrown into the river and drowned. What a horrible thing. One boy was saved. At first, his mother hid him. Then, when he grew big to hide, she placed him in a small basket. She put the basket in the river. The baby's sister, Miriam, hid nearby to see what would happen. A princess, the Pharaoh's daughter, found the baby. She named him Moses and planned to raise him as her own child. So Moses was really also an adopted child. So it's not just the story of Passover, it's also the story of adoption. Miriam ran to her. "Should I get you someone to help you with a baby?" "Yes," the princess said. Miriam brought the baby's mother to work in the palace. Moses was adopted by the princess, but he knew he was one of the children of Israel because his real mother really raised him, because she was his caretaker. When he was a young man, he saw an Egyptian beat a slave. Moses attacked the Egyptian and killed him, and then he ran away. Because, it's a terrible thing to have killed someone, and he obviously didn't feel very good about it and was scared. Moses settled far from Egypt. He married and worked as a shepherd. One day, while Moses was watching the sheep, he saw a burning bush. There were flames, but the bush wasn't harmed. "Moses, Moses," a voice called from the bush. "Yes, here I am." God spoke to Moses from the burning bush. He told Moses to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. Moses and his older brother Aaron went to the Pharaoh. They asked him to let the children of Israel go free. The Pharaoh refused. He forced the children of Israel to work even harder. Moses and Aaron warned him that if he didn't let the Hebrews go, the waters of Egypt would turn to blood. The Pharaoh refused, and the water turned to blood. Can you imagine how awful that would be? When you look at the river and you can't drink any of the water, you open your faucet, there's blood coming out, not water. It's pretty scary. So that was the first plague to strike Egypt. There were 10. Frogs covered the whole land. Kind of gross. Frogs are cute, but when you have hundreds of them in your house, no. A thick cloud of lice swarmed over Egypt. Now think about if you have a dog, how a dog itches when he has lice. And how unpleasant that would be to be covered in lice. It's terrible. Animals ran wild. the Egyptians' cattle became terribly sick and died, which means there was no milk, no cheese, no butter. So a lot of people didn't have enough to eat. Painful boils broke out on the skins of the Egyptians. Boils are really horrible sores, and they hurt so bad. Huge hailstones mixed with fire fell on the land. That would have destroyed the crops. It might have hurt the people because, if you're out in the open and you get caught in a hailstorm, that's painful. A swarm of locusts attacked Egypt. And locusts eat everything green. Everything is bare, and everything is destroyed. It's also something that's really terrible. And then it was dark as night in the middle of the day. It's also something, could you imagine when you wake up in the morning, it stays dark, it stays night, and it stays night all day. You can't go out alone, it's creepy. Then came the 10th plague. One by one, the firstborn Egyptian sons died. The angel of death only visited the house of the Egyptian. He passed over the homes of the children of Israel. The Pharaoh was frightened. He was a firstborn son. He called for Moses and Aaron. "Leave now," he told them. "Go quickly before we all die." The children of Israel left that very night. The next day, the Pharaoh had a change of heart. He and his army chased after the former slaves. The Pharaoh's soldiers had horses, and their chariots were getting closer and closer to the children of Israel. The Red Sea was in front of them. The soldiers were behind them. They seemed trapped. God told Moses to lift his stick and to spread his hand out over the sea. Moses did, and the sea divided. The children of Israel walked through the sea on dry land. Now that's a big deal. Could you imagine going to the ocean and the ocean all of a sudden parts and you can walk through it? That's a lot of water. And the Israelites were saved. And to commemorate us being slaves in Egypt and being liberated, we celebrate Passover every year. So, enjoy your Passover and be proud of your long, proud history. Chag Sameach.